Welcome back to the Liverpool Conference Centre, the scene of the Labour Party conference this year. Now, one of the best jokes in Ed Miliband's speech today was calling the day he'd had an operation to correct a deviated septum Ed Nose Day. It wasn't his line, but the Labour leader can do little to correct his somewhat awkward manner, which is being mocked mercilessly here by the sketch writers and the cartoonists. His supporters say he's a kind, principled, determined man, and the public will soon realise he is authentic. If they're right, can he win? We sent our political correspondent Michael Crick to find out.
At times, he looks almost as young as the schoolboy who spoke here yesterday. And geeky. Indeed, as a teenager himself, Ed Miliband could do the Rubik's Cube single-handed in 80 seconds. And a poll this week suggests that less than a quarter of voters see Miliband as a credible Prime Minister. We found that reflected in Hoylake on the Wirral.
Oh, Ed.
Yep. Do you think he's, do you see him as a future Prime Minister?
No.
Why not?
Gravitas, lack of.
I think he's got sympathy for people. Don't get me wrong. I can see that in his eyes. You know what I mean? Looks caring.
No, thank you very much. No, he's wet.
He's what?
Like a wet lettuce.
A wet lettuce?
You wet lettuce.
I am determined we restore your trust in us on the economy.
In the hall in Liverpool this afternoon, cartoonist Steve Bell was exploiting what he says is a rich seam of Miliband characteristics.
He's a joy to caricature. I mean, he's got all kinds of features that just leap out. He's got these amazingly deep-set staring eyes, two staring eyes. He really has got, and they drill into you as well. And they're very, very dark eyebrows. And he's got a funny sort of goofy mouth with a kind of rubbery lip. And his teeth are also quite goofy. And I mean, all of us cartoonists have been going at him, and some of us. I mean, I'm not quite sure I've got him yet. I'm still working on him.
When Mr. Miliband visited the riot spots this summer, he looked ill at ease with the public. There's even a website called Awkward Ed Miliband Moments. American pollster Stan Greenberg has been advising the Labour leader, having worked for every Democrat president and Labour PM for the last 30 years.
As a new leader, I've worked for other human beings. Bill Clinton was a failed governor who could hardly, Southern politician you could hardly trust, who probably became revered. You know, people grow as leaders. This is, 1 year into this, he's young. This is the first speech in which he's been able to deliver, his core values, and I think the authenticity came through.
John Major looked nerdy, not people's idea of a PM, but still won the most votes in any British election ever. And there's another example.
There is the view that you want as Prime Minister somebody who'll mend your roof, babysit your kids or whatever. Actually, I think that's the case. Margaret Thatcher didn't win elections because people thought she'd be great fun to sit next to on a 6-hour flight to New York. For Ed Miliband, he's not there yet. The polls show he's not there yet, but he does have another 3.5 years.
It's an advantage no opposition leaders had before. Under the new law, he probably won't face an election until 2015.
Well, our political editor Gary Gibbon joins us now. Gary, delivery, jokes were good.
And then a little bit downhill. He was talking about ripping up the rule book. He kind of ripped up the rule book for conference leaders' speeches. They're supposed to be clap lines peppered all the way through. Almost with relief, the whole of the hall fell upon a NHS not safe in Tory hands line near the end, because they hadn't heard anything that was instantly clappable until then. Part of this goes back to one of the things that his team were trying to do. They knew that this was a moment to have a conversation with the public outside, not the hall. And they neither sort of did one nor the other to an extent, because there's Ed Miliband suddenly doing these sort of gestures that leaders do, and sometimes trying to up the volume in order to get the hall on his side. And probably those are the clips we used because they seem the most dramatic. Those are the ones people see, and he doesn't get his conversation going. And then at the heart of it all, the content. And was that the sort of conversation the public's up for?
Well, that was a strange thing. I mean, I seem to remember Blair, even John Smith, throwing gauntlets down. I tried to do some gauntlet counting. Didn't get many.
It was more like a seminar, really, and at the heart of it, this central idea that you can make capitalism better using the levers of the state, using tax, using the honours system, using all sorts of levers, no detail on any of that. And the whole thing, you couldn't even say it was half-cooked, but it was an idea that he wanted to put in.
And the difficulty I was trying to put to Harriet Harman, that in fact they were on deck when all these awful practices took place, PFI and private equity.
He was saying that a lot of bad things happened under Tony Blair and Gordon Brown. The system got rotten. And of course, just going back to the style of the thing and the way it was written, not a good idea to put in a line like, I am not Tony Blair, knowing that some of the people in the hall will clap it. And a lot of people outside will be thinking, well, hang on, he won you 3 elections. And probably one of the people outside watching was his nibs.
Gary Gibbon, our political editor. And that is all from us for now from Liverpool. I'm going to be talking with Ed Miliband tomorrow. But for now, let's go back to Krishnan in the studio in London.
Thanks, John.